All right, I think we are going live. Welcome to another episode of Docker Run. I think I'm going to be the only person on this today, so you'll have to help me out. I'm going to be trying to watch chat and talk to y'all at the same time, so let me know if something's happening. So just real quick, everyone that's on chat, welcome back. Oh, Crazy Max, good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. You can totally help me. Everyone say hello to Crazy Max. Crazy Max has done quite a lot of work on the GitHub Actions you're about to see today. So let's get going. Let's see. Bring up a browser window and then we'll get started. So today, we are doing kind of a last minute change. We've got some exciting previews of our new Docker GitHub Actions, and we want to get your feedback on them. So you can use these today. I have a project here that you'll be able to use as sort of a reference. The magic of Docker, you'll just be able to provide a certain version string and go ahead and use these. But what we're hoping is that we can get some feedback on the flow, because this is a very different flow from the V1 actions. So that's probably a good point to kind of like sort of jump in. You might remember the first, let's see. This is slightly different. There we go. I'm going to open this. Not in a new directory, just go ahead and open it. This was the first action, and it was sort of an all-in-one action. Yeah, Crazy Max, this is totally the SteelSeries Arctic 7 headset. It is fantastic. I really like it, and it works really well. No wires. It's great. I highly recommend it. So for those of you who have used this first action, one of the challenges with this first action was it's an all-in-one action. So it logs in for you, it builds for you, and it pushes for you. And a lot of the feedback we got was, I love this action, but I'd like to tweak it this way or make it work this way or do this a little bit differently. And what we realized was we needed to break up the actions. So what you're going to see in the future is a Docker login action, a setup action, a build action. And all of these actions you can compose together into your own workflow. And we will go from there. So this is the first one, and Crazy Max can, Crazy Max, aka Kevin, who's in chat, is helped us with a lot of this. Right now, this is showing showing master branch. So this is the docs for the new flow, but this is sort of the old action, or the name for the old action. Build push action was the old one. This is the repository that I'd like you to go to if you want to follow up with either pull requests or with issues. I guess pull requests you'd launch them into each of the repositories, but issues, let's put the issues here. If you hit a problem, we're going to talk about each of these sort of in stage, but I wanted to just show like this is the central repository for like all of the stuff that might happen. So if you want to read the docs, you can go here, or if you want to file an issue, go here. This is the best place to start. So let's go back to my repo. This is a simple example. It's the Python Flask app that I do quite a lot. I wanted it to have a couple of CI flows. So every commit to main, I wanted to test. Every PR, I wanted to test. I wanted to do nightly tests, and I wanted to use releases via tags and have that push to Docker Hub. So we'll walk through these things in steps, but you'll be able to drill into any of this. And if you have any questions, just let us know. So let's start with the Docker login action, because that's sort of the doorway to getting started. What this action will do is pretty much do exactly what it says on the tin. It'll log you into Docker Hub. So you might have heard sort of some of the new changes that are coming out about Docker Hub and some rate limits. Right now, logging into Docker Hub doubles, even not with a paid account, but just logging in with Docker doubles your sort of tokens, if you will. So it's a great way, like it's definitely a best practice for CI, is that just go ahead and log into Hub. You'll get good pulls, even if you have a free account. It's still going to be a higher tier of service than an anonymous account. But this action will log you into Hub or any of these other repos. So the older GitHub packages repository, Crazy Max added support for the container registry like within 10 minutes of the blog post landing. Also support GitLab's registry, ACR, GCR, and ECR. And so in most of these cases, the flow is pretty simple. You're going to use this action, and you'll probably need to pass a username and secret. The one place where you won't have to pass a secret is in or you won't have to create a secret is in the GitHub old packages. You'll be able to use the GitHub token to log in. In the new one, you will need to create a secret, at least for now, and put a pat in there. GitLab, you'll need to create secrets for that. Same thing with ACR. So GCR is a little bit different, and ECR is the same. You'll just create secrets. If you have any questions about how to create secrets, just let me know, and I can show you an example of how to create a secret. But this does exactly what you expect. When you do a VM in GitHub Actions, this will run Docker login, and then any command that you run after that uses Docker will have access to those credentials. So let's go see what the next one is. The next action is to set up Buildx. So Buildx is the new builder from Docker. It has a lot more features than, say, Docker build. So a lot of folks are familiar with Docker build. It's a fairly straightforward way to take a Docker file and turn it into an image. Docker Buildx, no pun intended, builds upon that experience and adds some additional features like better caching, better parallelism, bind mount in a bunch of stuff. But it's separate from Docker. It's not, there's a version included in Docker engine, but this will get you a new version. It will eventually become, I think, the default, but today we're going to look at how to set up Buildx. So you just will run this and get the version latest, and you will have builders. So that's another thing that's different, is that Buildx actually sets up a builder for you. You could do multiple builders. So if you wanted to do isolated builders that had their own build caches, you could do that. That's definitely more in the advanced features. But one of the things that a lot of folks have been really excited about for Buildx, especially with some of the work that we've demonstrated elsewhere, is that you can do cross-platform builds with Buildx. So you'll see this with QEMU support, and what this will let you do is build cross-platform. So you'll be able to build with like ARM, for example. So say you wanted to do x86 and ARM builds, you don't have to go get an ARM machine. You could just use Buildx and set that up and have an x86 build and an ARM build out of the box, and you wouldn't have to do anything special. The example that I have does basically all the platforms that we support, and we'll go over that a little bit more in a little bit. So all you need to do is this part. Set up Buildx, grab the version, the latest. That'll automatically set up for you a build instance, which you can see sort of here, the name of it, and it'll tell you what the platforms are to build on. But the way that you use this is you could just do these sort of run commands. So this is like effectively shelling out to Docker. But to use the Docker shell commands, you need to also do the install step, where we're going to install it into the basically the CLI for you, so that when you do a GitHub action, you want the CLI. So if you do steps where you do Docker run, and you do a bunch of Docker steps with build, and you just call those directly, you're going to want to do this install step. Otherwise, if you're just going to use the build action that we built, you don't need to do the install step. You can just grab latest and just go. There are some options you can do to tweak this, but that's definitely in sort of the more advanced. I don't think most people will need to tweak too much about this particular image. The setup KMU is very similar. These are the platforms that we support. So x86, ARM, actually a couple flavors of ARM, I guess. RISC-V, PowerPC. I'm pretty sure this is a mainframe. It's IBM's mainframe. Can't remember what it is. 32-bit, and then some older versions of ARM. So if you want basically the whole thing, you can grab it. If you just want chunks of these, you can ask for specific platforms. So if you want just a couple of them, you can get them. I think by default, a lot of the officials build everything, but if you don't need them, you don't need to build them, because they'll just take up space in your registry. These will be like basically 5 copies of a given image, or 6 copies of an image, however many platforms you go for. So if you're, say, like going to AWS and you want to be able to take care of Graviton and regular Intel, then you can enable AMD and ARM64, and you'll just go. And so, like Max says, they're all enabled by default. So that's like the easy option. And if you just want to enable 1 or 2 of them, you can totally do that as well. So I know I usually have somebody, Peter's not here today, so I usually have somebody who can make this a little more conversational. I'll try to keep it conversational. But please go ahead and ask questions, so I'm not just chatting with y'all all day, or not just talking at y'all. And then this is the build push action. This is really like the meat of what you're probably going to be doing. And so let's just go through the usage. So interestingly enough, Buildx, and I learned this from Kevin, aka Crazy Max, when he was doing the work here. I didn't know that Buildx could actually pull from Git for you. I just always assumed it operated on a local checkout. But you don't have to do that. So in this example, you'll see that there is no GitHub action checkout. And that's because we're just going to use Buildx to get the checkout. And you'll be able to, so here we're going to set up QEMU. We're going to set up Buildx. We're going to log into Hub, and we're going to use the build push action. Never once did we do a checkout. And that's because Buildx can do it for you. And so by default, you're going to get the reference that this commit was checked out for. And that's just it. if you have private repos, you can add this git auth token, which is basically your GitHub secret, your secret.github_token, or in this case, github.token. And that will give you permissions to do checkout. If you do other work and you need a checkout, you can use GitHub, the action checkout, and then you'll need to add in sort of the path pieces. So in this case, like with context and Dockerfile. I use slightly different directory structures in my project that I'm going to show you today. And so I'm going to use the path context, but you can totally just use this, and then it saves you a checkout step. Also, that checkout would go into the build cache. So if you had like lots of builders or all those things, like it's a good way to keep Buildx able to do the best possible job for you. So that's a good way to look at it. If you do need isolated builders, if you want builders to have different caches, and maybe Crazy Max has another use case besides different caches for why you'd want to do isolated builders. That's the one that I can think of. You can set up Buildx multiple times and give it its own ID, and then refer to those IDs later and send them to the various builders. And that way you can kind of fan them out. But this is the kind of the really exciting version, which is the let's do a multi-platform build. So I'm going to build this image for all of these workflows, or all of these architectures, which for me is just amazing. Like, this is all your setting, and you're going to build this, you're going to push it, you're going to tag it 2 ways for all of these platforms. And I think that's just sort of amazing. It's like magic. Because you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 images automatically pushed with 2 different tags. It's pretty awesome. This is also, I think, a dynamite feature. So Buildx has caching and can cache between runs. And GitHub Actions gives you a 5 gig cache for each project. So you can like put these together and get sort of the best of both worlds, where you can set up the cache, give it a path, and some other information that it's going to use to, basically snapshot that and store it off between builds. And then you're going to tell Buildx to use that cache. And I think that's a really sort of dynamite kind of combination for these 2 technologies. You will see for like, if you have a lot of builds, subsequent builds where just one layer is changing, you will see faster builds for this, because a bunch of the layers will be cached, and you will get to reuse those caches between GitHub Actions. So like if you do per PR or per commit, you'll get to take advantage of all of that, and use sort of the best of Buildx. Now this is definitely Crazy Max and his like complete workflow. I missed this the first time I went through this. It's really awesome. So with one file, what we're going to do is on a pull request, we're going to build the Docker image, and we're going to tag it with Edge. On a push event, so GitHub Actions can fire for all of these different events. They can fire for a pull request. And in this pull request, the action is going to treat it slightly differently. It's going to just build it and tag it with Edge. On a push event, it's going to build it, tag it with Edge, and then push it to the repo. In this case, Docker Hub. On a schedule event, which case like you might use schedule for like a nightly build, we're going to build it, tag it with nightly, and push it to Docker Hub. And on a push tags event, we're going to build it, tag it with that same tag version, tag it with latest, and also push it to Docker Hub. And so this one action will be able to do 4 different things for you. I broke mine up into a bunch of different actions, but that was mostly because I missed this. So at some point I will go back and refactor my application to do some of this. But let's just go through this step by step and sort of talk about what's happening. So this is the action code itself. We're going to name this action CI. And then on these different events, we're going to do something. So on a schedule, every day at 10, we're going to do a build. As I recall, GitHub Actions happen in UTC, I think. So the time that the action happens is probably not local for you, unless you just happen to live in oh, right, this is the workflow for my app. So this is 10 UTC is, I think, closer to like 2 in the morning my time. It's like 8 hours. I'm 8 hours off UTC. So just know that when you put in a schedule, it's in UTC. The branches, the push here is going to happen on the master branch. So I can say like on the master branch, if you see a push, react to it. If you see a tag push matching this spec, so basically Semver, I want you to do a push tags build. And if you see any pull requests against master, do a pull request. And so each of these flows are basically in this on schedule or on stanza. And let's walk through what happens. So we're going to use the checkout to get the path. We're going to do some prep stage, which is basically just setting up the version. And so this is just a really clever snippet of effectively inline bash that's going to check which versions that we're going to use. So you set your Docker image name here. This is basically the repo and the name of the app. So if you wanted to go to hub metcalfc/foo, you would do metcalfc/foo here. By default, the version we want to use is Edge. If this reference is a tag, then we're going to actually set the version to that tag reference. If the event is schedule, then we know that that's the nightly build. If the tags and the Docker image, tags, then we're going to get a list of tags because you can specify more than one tag to the action. So the first tag is going to be the Docker image and the version, which could be Edge, could be the version string, or it could be nightly. In the case that it is a version string, append the latest tag as a second tag. So this is the only one that's actually going to get 2 tags. It's super clever. It works really well. You don't have to know this part. You can just grab it, or you can do your own tagging if you want to. We're going to set up QEMU so that we can do cross-platform, and we're not going to specify any other parameters, which means we're going to get all the build types, all the architectures by default. We're going to grab the latest of Buildx. We're going to log into Docker Hub with some secrets that we generated. So you went to Docker Hub and you created a pat, and then we're going to build and push. We're not going to push on pull requests, which is a really cool. You can use the event names inside of your actions to qualify what's happening. So if this is not a pull request, it will evaluate to true, which means we'll push. Otherwise, it'll evaluate to false, which means we won't. And the tags, we got this from this, set the output tags. So we can get that here. So we're going to build in this local directory. We're going to build the Docker file. We're going to build for these three architectures. So x86 64, ARM 64, and x86 32. And that's it. So this is like a whirlwind tour of the docs. Let's actually go look at my real example. And we'll actually do some workflow. There are lots of things you can tweak in here. If you have questions, there is on the Docker the Docker community Slack, there is a GitHub Actions channel in that Slack. So you can go there and you can get all of all the help. Like Max is in there, I'm in there. There's other community members in there. We can help you out. Go there. Let's go back to this. So let's step through what's happening here. So I think lots of folks are familiar with this application. It's a Python Flask app. All it says is hello Docker and GitHub. That's it. It doesn't even have Redis in this version. It's super simple. If we go back, it has some unit tests. So in the unit tests, we check for a 2000 response code and that the text is what we expect. That's it. Let's see. I use a makefile to drive a lot of this stuff. So I also set a bunch of these parameters, which you don't need to set in your builds, but I want anybody to be able to use this. So this hub pull secret is because I can also deploy this to ECS. And so we can talk about that a little bit later. The repo is the directory that you checked out. You could totally hard code this, but some people have checked this example out to other repo names and it's broken them. The tag is something that I do up here where I either get the version or I grab Edge. I have a dev image and a prod image. They're slightly different. When I do development, I use Docker Compose and I use this dev version of Docker Compose. The unit tests happen actually inside of build, and I'll show you what that looks like. We actually are using multi-stage builds for this. You can build this. It's just Buildx, and you'll notice I set that up here. Locally, if you want to default to Buildx, you can set this environment variable export. Docker Buildx is 1, and we'll use Buildx from that point. I can do everything in here, and I've got a different version of all these pieces. So let's go back to here and look at the dev compose. So we're going to build this out of the app directory. The target in the Docker file is going to be prod. We're going to set a development environment variable. We're going to mount the code into the container so that we can get that live reload, make it a really smooth development experience. And we'll do some development. We'll change some things as part of this, and we'll do some pushes and see the GitHub Actions doing magic. And then on the prod side, when it's time to go to prod, it's basically just this pull credentials, which is the hub pull secret. So in this case, I'll deploy it to ECS, Amazon ECS, and ECS will need to know a hub password for me. And here's the image, it's the prod image. I just didn't want to hard code this in Compose, so I pass it through as an environment variable. Otherwise, every single time I have to update the tag, I have to update Compose, and that's a little more work than I want to do, so I just pass it through. But that looks pretty good. So let's do some development. So I'm going to make this bigger. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to switch you all to viewing my desktop, which is hopefully not too messy. We'll pull up. We'll pull this up. Let's see. It's asking a little passphrase. Oops. There we go. You need to see the preview. Let's go into each of these. So let's start with a pull request, because that's what we'll do first. We'll do a PR. So I wanted to do a slightly different thing for the pull request, which is I just wanted to run the test. I didn't want to do a full build. So what I did is on checkout, on every pull requests against the branch main, we're going to do a checkout. We're going to set up Docker build. We're going to use the build cache, and we're going to build the context for the Docker file and just hit the target text. Oh, so Crazy Max is telling me that the setup build flags have their mutable flags. Oh, so this right here. So I could just do v1, I think is what Max is telling me. So I could do this and cache and that. So I can do that. Does that sound about right, Max? But let's go look at this Docker file real quick so you can see what's going on. So from Python, Alpine as the base, let's copy in the requirements text, and we're going to pip install. So this is usually the longest step of any build for something like Python is installing the development environment, or the runtime apps or the development environment requirements. Certainly for things like Node, that's true. So I do this in its own base, which I can share with subsequent images. So test will build upon this and then also install the requirements for dev, so that I can keep the dev requirements separate from the prod requirements, and only install prod requirements when it goes out. That way I keep the image small. There's not anything in there that shouldn't be in there, or any debug utilities or anything like that, but I might want those in my test image. You'll notice here I do copy the source across because I'm going to reuse that for test, and I'm going to use that for prod. I don't use that for development. I copy that over with a bind mount, but we'll see how that works in a little minute. So I'm going to save this, and then we're going to go to the main branch. So in the main branch, this is slightly different. For all pushes of main, we're going to do the checkout. We're going to use that prepare. In this case, for nightly, I'm actually using the new GitHub container registry. I'm going to do Buildx. So Buildx is version 1 now. And I'm going to use the cache again. I'm going to log into the GitHub container registry. I'm going to, let's see what else we got. I'm going to do the push for just I'm going to do the build, or sorry, the test. And then if that succeeds, then I will do the build and push. In this case, I'm testing and checking it in. So if it fails, I want it to fail here and not go here, and then we'll go from there. Let's go look at the nightly. So the nightly runs 8 a.m. UTC, which is 1 a.m. Pacific. It goes and gets it from GitHub registry. So one of the things about GitHub registry is that it's free to use within GitHub Actions. So I'm using it here just because it's really close to Actions, and it just goes. I could use Hub too. Let's see. We check out, log into the GitHub Actions trees, and then actually as part of the test, I use compose. So I compose up the entire application. I check to see if there's some running containers. I check the logs, and I tear it all back down. And that's the nightly test. So in the PR tests, I do sort of like the unit tests. And then in the nightly tests, it's sort of like the integration tests. It's a really simple app. So the integration tests are basically just like, does it work in Compose when you compose up? And so that's it. Oh, the release. So on a release build, I do is again a slightly different behavior. I push this to Docker Hub. And I do a cross-platform build. So I'm going to set up QEMU with platforms all. This is the default, so actually you don't need this. I just like it because it's explicit that I want all of them. We're going to grab the V1 versions here. Let's see, set up the cache again. So all of my builds are going to use the cache and take advantage as much reuse as possible. We're going to log into Hub. And we are going to build and push that. So I'm building basically for everything. And I'm going to tag it. I'm going to use the cache, and that's it. So let's actually go through an entire workflow. So I'll just stay in the this example. So I'm going to do a couple. I'm going to go ahead and add in these. To version tags, and we'll do git push. That's actually going to kick off a build in main. I can do that because I'm the admin for this repo. Normally, I would not do that. I would do a pull request, which is what we're going to do for the next bit. But I didn't do that. So let's do an actual change. I don't want this app to say hello Docker and GitHub because I'm not demoing this to Docker and GitHub. I'm going to Docker this to Docker and YouTube. So I'm going to do this. And so now I've made this change. Actually, let's go back. I'm going to go back and undo this change. And I'm going to do make me a dev environment. Oh. So that error was that I was using the ECS context, and ECS context can't do local development. So we're going to do make dev. So it's going to go do the build. It's installing the pip requirements. It's doing the layers, and then it's up and running. You'll notice that this is a development environment, which means that Flask is set up to do live reload. So let's get this up and go to localhost, hello Docker and GitHub. Okay, well, that's not what I want. I want to say hello Docker and YouTube. So if I go over here and reload it, we have it. And that's part of that live reload feature functionality. You'll notice that it detected a change, it restarted it. I can do this all I want. It'll detect that change, and I can iterate on this and make this work how I want to work. I'm going to change this back to. And all right, great. So that's pretty close to how I want it. Let's run the test locally. So this is again going to use Buildx, and it's going to install all of the test. In this case, it installs all of the test requirements, and it failed. And why did it fail? Well, it failed because it was expecting hello Docker and GitHub, and I actually did hello Docker and YouTube. So that means we need to update the test. Let's go to the test, and we'll fix this, hello Docker and YouTube. And we'll do make test again. And now the tests work. So now I've done my development loop, I've done local testing. It's time to actually send this somewhere. Let's do git branch, and we'll do okay, so we'll just make sure this looks about right. So well, changing that to YouTube, changing that to YouTube, that looks good to me. So now we're going to do git add app and git commit. And see, we'll do git commit demo for Docker run. And now we'll do git push origin YouTube. So I'm going to push this branch, and I'm going to I'm going to make a pull request signed off by me, for the views. And we'll create the pull request. And let's see what's happening. So checking for availability to merge. This merge is blocked by this pull request. And so let's go see what's going on in this pull request. So this is the Actions interface. It's setting up the job. It's using the cache. It's doing the checkout, setting up Docx build, setting up for the cache layers. It's running the test. It's going to be relatively quick. And the test works. So now post-test, it's going to clean some stuff up. And if we go back in a second now, we will see that all checks have passed. And I can now merge this pull request. So I'm going to go ahead and merge it. And so real quick before I merge that, let's go look at the actions here. So here was that action that I did where I moved to version tags. I just pushed that over, but you'll see that this is a different, I can actually look at each of the different flows. So I can look at the PR flow. I can look at sort of the release flow or the publish flow, the nightly flow, and the main branch flow. So I'm going to go back to that and I'm going to merge this. So yeah, I'm going to confirm that merge. Off it goes, do some cleanup there, and now we're going to watch what happens next. So the merge request hit, and it triggered off the main branch CI because it went into main. It's going to run its own bits, so it's going to also check out Buildx. It's going to do the cache. It's going to log in to ECR. It's going to catch all of that as well. And it goes super fast because the cache is already there. And that's it. It logged into cache and did everything else it needed to do. So super fast. The main action is now good to go. So I think that's a great place to check out what I would do next. So I want to release this to y'all. Let's see what we've got. So we're going to do git tags. Git tag. So there is a git tag for version .1. We're going to look at this. Okay, we're going to git fetch. Let's see the git log. So I've got the Docker run and the moving master from version tags. I've got everything I need. So I'm going to do git tag version 1.1. And we're going to tag this. Oops, I want to get out of the YouTube branch. So git checkout main, git rebase origin main. So now if I look at this, git log, I've got the main, I've got the merges, I've got the master tags, all of that's good to go. Git tag version. All right, so now if we do git tag, we'll see that there's two. If I do git log now, I see that that tag is there, and so I'm now going to do git push tags. So I'm pushing the tags, and it sees a new tag and it goes. So it's going to kick this off into actions. When that happens, there's now a new publish releases to hub action. And let's go watch what happens here. This is my favorite one. It's going to do the cross-platform build. It's so magic. So we're setting up QEMU for this. I actually don't know how to say it. I say it probably different every time. Sorry, folks. And it's going to do build and push. So the build's going to happen relatively quickly, then you'll notice here that there's a whole bunch of these. Each one of these is a different platform that's being built for. So here's the ARM version, the IBM mainframe version, the ARM64 version. We're going to build these things across all of these platforms. And so this does take a few minutes, but if you think about what's happening right now, in a single action, we're building for 7 different chip architectures, 7 different platforms all at once with just a couple of lines of YAML. It's kind of mind-blowing. Super cool. It's sort of the power of Buildx. So when those finish building, right now they're still working their way through the requirements. It's also kind of amazing, sort of like power of Linux, power of Docker, right? So each of these is a Python Alpine base image for each of those architectures. Each of those architectures have, compiled dependencies and all of those pieces for Python and everything else. And it's getting all of that and building it for us. So, and the other thing that it did is it built and pushed. So it looks like that looks good. So if we go to Hub, and this is my Hub, and we go to the Docker Actions examples, we'll see that there's another tag in here. So we can go see the tags. We can drill into the latest tag was updated a few seconds ago by myself. And also the latest 1.1 tag was updated. You'll notice the hashes here, the digests are the same. So these are 2 tags pointing at the same image. And we pointed across all of these different architectures, which is super cool. So the image is roughly the same size, but PowerPC comes in a little heavier. ARM6 comes in a little lighter. But here we go, we're good to go. And we have everything up and running on Hub. This is the example I did 8 days ago. If you were to go pull this now, you could. Let's go back. I'm not going to wait until 1 in the morning, and I'm not going to change the time, but let's go look at what a nightly test would do. So this is the nightly test for last night, and we can sort of step through those. It logs into GCR because it's going to do a pull. It does a compose up, gets everything going. You notice it detaches it here so that it's up and running later. It's going to check for running containers. Yep, there's the running containers. It's going to check the logs. It does indeed have those logs. We're going to do compose down, shut everything down cleanly. Yep, everything worked. And then we're going to check out of the GitHub registry. And so that's how the nightly works. So each of these has a slightly different flow. I'm using 2 different registries. I'm using different image tags. I'm using different names. So I've done a complete loop. And now what if I want to take this and send it to prod? Well, let's go ahead and do that real quick. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to send it to ECS. So we're going to do make deploy. It's just going to make sure that everything is good to go for my Hub account. Actually, I guess I don't need to double push this once I've pushed it once, but I pushed it already. So, oh, yep. I'm going to blur the screen for a second. Let's see if this works. Actually, I'm going to switch to me. I'm going to type some passwords. So hang on while I type some passwords. We use a federation service for our logins. So I get a push request to my phone to accept that, to say like, yes, I'm trying to log into Amazon. Then I log into Amazon. Then it lets me log in. Then I have to type my password a couple more times because single sign-on never means typing your password once. And now we can go back to my desktop. And let's do that again. We're going to do deploy. Everything already exists, and we're going to Docker compose up. So what you'll see here that's happening is this pull secret is a secrets manager. So I put a Docker Hub access token into Docker Hub. The prod image is in Docker Hub. It's the Docker action examples, the version V01 that we just built, and we're doing Docker compose up. So we are launching this application into ECS right now. And we're using the exact same compose file that we would normally use for any other sort of deploy. I don't have to know anything about what's happening right now, but I'll tell you. We're building an ECS cluster with Amazon Fargate supplying the compute. We are building a load balancer. We're building security groups. We're building a VPC. We have an entire stream dedicated to this. So if you want to see it, go look at Amazon from Code to Cloud. It's in the, I think it's like 2 or 3 videos ago, but we'll go over this in depth. It takes about, I think, 4 minutes to launch this. Yeah, so if you want to continue the deployment to ECR, you can also use an ECS task definition along with, that action. Yep, and you could just have that go as well. I think at some point we want to do a GitHub action that would use compose and do some of that magic for you, so that you only ever have to write compose and it'll just work. It totally would work. You could write an action today. It's just you still need to do the secret part, and have I'd want to document the right roles that account would need to have so you could lock it down. So the only thing it could do is deploy or deploy over. This is the new plugin that we've been working on with Amazon for, I think we released it in July. It's still in beta. It's coming, like there's lots of new pieces and parts coming out. We just added updates to do compose up again so that you can actually iterate on it and redeploy over it. Before you'd have to tear it all down and go back up again. But we've updated that. It does a rolling, like a blue-green deploy, I think is the default behavior, which is super cool. So let's actually go see what's happening right now. We can go look in. All of this is happening actually in CloudFormation behind the scenes. So we can go see the Docker Actions examples and see all the resources that are getting built. If we wanted to go see the cluster, we could. It's just ECS. We can drill into these tasks. And yeah, like Max said, you can actually drill into the tasks and go see the task definition for that particular task. There's lots of cool stuff going on there. Almost done. What else do we have that I can show while we're here? Let's go back to CloudFormation. Oh, we can go look at the resources. There's the security group. So let's go into here. By default, we do principle of least privilege. So the security group's going to pop open port 5000 for you because that's what we defined in the compose file. We do create CloudWatch logs for you, so you can go see the logs. And it looks like we're up and running. So let's come back here. I think that's where CloudWatch is a little ahead of where we are. Let's go to here. We'll do Docker compose PS. I'm sorry, GCA. Docker compose PS. Oh, it's going to make me do that again. Well, we'll have to wait for this. So it's definitely up and running. I can go to, there it goes, finally. Docker PS, Docker compose PS. and get the ports. And we can go here. We can go here. And let's go launch this. So it takes, for whatever reason, the first request takes a second in, I guess, as the load balancer warms up. But once it goes, it'll go faster. So while we're waiting for that to load, is there any questions I can answer for folks about what you all saw today? So let's go look at the logs real quick. This is a production environment. We don't have debug mode is off. And still waiting for the load balancer to come all the way up. Let's see. We'll see my request go through whenever the load balancer finishes starting. But I know we're just about out of time. So maybe while we're waiting for that, I'll talk about what's coming next week. So next week, we're going to have my friend Jonah from AWS come on. Jonah and I are going to talk about the top 10 questions from the last video that Jonah and I did together that we didn't have time to get to. So these are user questions about this new integration. So the new Amazon Docker integration. And we had about 3,000 people come watch our last version. And we had a lot more questions than we had time to answer. So we're going to answer the top 10 questions from that. Next stream, next Wednesday, 10 a.m. So let's see. Couldn't reach the load balancer. Let's try one more time. And then we'll just say the demo gods were not in our favor. And we'll try again some other time. Let's see where else I could go. I could go back to CloudFormation. I could go to, let's see, where else could I go to get that? CloudFormation, this service, this VPC. Inside the VPC is I can never remember where to find the load balancer in Amazon's console. I don't know why I can't remember that, but I can never remember where it is. Oh, it looks like the web service is still starting. Don't know why that is, but that's all right. So I'll keep hanging out until this launches. If anybody wants to stick around, otherwise, thank you for coming. So the examples that you saw today, they're all up and running. You can run against them now. Crazy Max showed us all how to use the v1 tag for Buildx and QEMU and login. Use v2 for the builder, the build step. Oh, there's Peter. Peter said go to EC2. So we'll go to EC2, and then. Let's see. Here it is. Load balancers, Docker examples, load balancer. Oh yeah, so it should be in here. Listeners, yeah, it's forwarding to that. So totally should be up and running, I think. So let's grab this, and then grab this. Well, there it is. Don't know why that took so long, but. So thank you very much all for coming. Thanks Peter and Crazy Max for jumping in. Thank you to Crazy Max for helping us get these actions going. Also, the new ECS plugin is in the latest version of Docker Desktop Edge. So there was a version I think that just came out yesterday. Go grab that. Sign up for Hub. Use Docker login to sign into Hub for your GitHub Actions, and we will see you next week, same time, with our friend Jonah from AWS talking about the top 10 questions about AWS and Docker's most recent integration. Thank you very much for coming.